In the spirit of this conversation that we're calling XR Gets Personal, I'm going to let you all tailor the intro. So we're going to take a little bit of information before we put up the actual presentation. So I'm going to need a couple of bits of info from you all. And to do that, I'm going to bounce out of that. And I'm going to just need some words. So someone just call out a part of the body. Chest, okay. And I need a verb ending in ing. Barking? All right. A number.
7.
Oh, wow, popular number. A number larger than that number.
14.
81, I heard, okay. And a noun. What? Did I hear burrito?
Like G-Y-M.
Oh, Jim, okay. How about a emotional state?
Anxious.
Anxious. Okay. A noun? Oh, actually, plural noun. Let's do that. Dogs. Okay, always good. Another verb. What? Swimming. Or how about swim? Swim, okay. Plural noun? Anyone?
Ducks.
Ducks and dogs, okay. And finally, another part of the body. What was that? Toes, okay. Toe. Okay, all right, we can go back and we're going to start this presentation back over from the beginning. All right, Keith, you can throw that up there. Oh, switch it, okay. And here we go. All right. Okay, so here is your participation. Got ducks, dogs barking, a lot of dog lovers here. And here's the intro. So my name is Jason McGuigan, and I am the chest of virtual reality at Lenovo. I've been barking in XR for over 7 years, it's kind of accurate, and been in technology of some form for over 81. Hopefully I don't look that old. Every day is a gym. Dog years. I feel incredibly privileged to be speaking with you all today, and I'm anxious to share my thoughts on the future of spatial dogs, along with the adoption of it for work and play. Most importantly, we'll swim at how our personal connection to our ducks and the content we consume will be at the toe of how our industry grows. All right, so why this silly little experiment here? Well, it's about personalization. And personalization is key to everything we do in this space. Now, before we jump off to that one, I want you to look at what you actually put up there and who actually participated in it. Now, it's a fun way to interact, but it's also a simple example of how we can take a story or an interaction and have people become invested in it. Once you add your own investment, once you add your own content to it, it becomes more of your own. So whoever called those things out, they can look at it and say, oh, that's my part. I participated here. So personalization is one of those areas that we look at very, very often in content creation, very, very, very popular right now in the space of XR. But what do we do with our lives right now? How do we actually integrate and interact and personalize our own worlds? Well, some of us monogram our clothes. We name our cars. We even personalize and change the wallpaper on our phones all the time. And let's look at our phones as an example. Our phones are one of the most personal devices, personal things that we own. Are you one of those people that goes in and organizes all of your folders? Are you one of those people that maybe puts a case on your phone or goes caseless? Are you one of those people that actually goes in and cleans out all of your inbox, or are you like me with this monstrosity? That's an actual number from last night. I think it's, what, 220,000, my Gmail account? A lot of people see my phone and they freak out with all the little red bubbles everywhere. All of your phones, all of your information, your apps, your photos, your videos, your music, all on your phone. They're very deeply, deeply personal devices. And that personalization aspect is about your self-expression. Everything that you're doing in that space, everything you're doing with that device is identified, associated with you. At the end of the day, that's really what personalization is all about. It allows you to feel connected. In this case, connected to your phone, and then sometimes connected to your content. So if we can make XR devices more personal, and if you can make the content more personal, and we could use them to more deeply connect with one another, we can truly get somewhere. But looking at devices right now, options are pretty limited. So obviously, I don't think anybody's gone out and bedazzled their Quest headset or anything, but there are very, very limited options when it comes to customizing your hardware currently. Maybe you actually put on a custom strap or a custom facial insert. Maybe you've gone ahead and spent the money to get custom lens inserts for corrective vision. But devices still have a long way to go. They need to get lighter, more comfortable, cheaper, and become more unique to each one of us, similar to the way we wear our glasses or sunglasses or any other aspect of our lives that we're going to constantly have on our face. And there are dozens of technological challenges to get there. But the one thing that we do know is that in the history of the world, technological advancement is undefeated. We will get there. It's not personal to you just yet, and it's kind of one size fits all. Maybe you go in and you could put on a couple of applications, sort it out, put a custom launcher on there or backdrop, but really it's just whatever the company gives it to you. And this is really where the industry wants to go. If we want to have a higher degree of utility for these devices, we have to give people more reasons to put them on. Right now, if you're using an XR device, typically you jump in, you go to your application, you do your training, maybe you play a game, but then you bounce right back out. It's not the constant interaction back and forth like we use with our phones today. One thing I've been talking to our customers about a lot lately is the idea that the area that we have to really focus on is change management. And it sounds like a weird place to look at when we're talking about XR, but really when we start talking to a customer about a training program, it's not changing from one XR device to another. It's changing from a legacy way of doing something and evolving it entirely different into an XR realm. That means that maybe they're doing classroom training or online training, and maybe there's associated vendors or people or classrooms or travel, all of those things associated with that. You're uprooting all of those basic things, and you have to manage that change as part of your ROI conversation with that customer. But how does that apply to us? How does that apply to your own personalization of it? When we have to think about what we're doing in exchange for our time with our XR devices. Will I put this device on? It's not, will I put this device on versus another VR headset? It's, will I put this device on rather than starting up the PlayStation or reading a book or scrolling on Instagram? Those are the exceptions, those are the challenges, and those are the changes that we're looking to make for ourselves. Not, do I jump from one device to the next? Yep, forgot a couple of little bullets there. But one area that XR really does amazingly well is this idea of presence. And personalization combined with presence is really how we're going to get somewhere with this industry. When we're in XR, we feel present in a space, connected to the content in a way that tricks our brains and heightens our emotions. And if we could use that content and we could use that presence and that connection to connect to things that are really important to us, then why wouldn't we actually want to spend time there? But therein lies the challenge. Changing the wallpaper on your phone is easy. Creating XR content is very hard. So of course, this is the point where, just like everybody else you've been seeing today, I'm sure, this is where I start talking about generative AI and all these imagery and all these things that you're seeing here. And quite honestly, if you have presentations nowadays that don't look cool, it's just because you're being lazy. This stuff is just out there and amazing to use, and it's quite fun. So last year, I did a talk here called the AI Catalyst, and talked about how generative AI will supercharge the XR industry. And we talked about tools like ChatGPT and Midjourney, 11 Labs. Oh, skipped a little past. User error. Blockade Labs. If you look at those tools now, from the point where they are, from this point last year, we've evolved so much. Blockade Labs now, you're not just creating a simple skybox. You can create 3D meshes from that skybox. Forget about ChatGPT. That's a whole other thing that we have to talk about. But today, you can utilize these tools to create XR content. We have a process right now that we can go through, taking generative AI and creating images or video, even some simple 3D models. We can convert those into something usable in a format that can then be brought into a game engine. Or where I'm liking to try and push the industry is to start calling a real-time engine, because game engines, of course, give it a certain bias for how people view it. But when we do that conversion, you could take an image or a series of videos of imagined places that have been created by tools like Midjourney or Runway, or eventually when we all get access to it, Sora, and be able to take it and interpret it with a tool like Polycam, maybe use neural radiance fields or Gaussian splatting, and then create 3D meshes from that will then get brought into a game engine, a real-time engine, and allow you to then bring that into XR. That's a real process that's out there today. But that's a slow process, and it requires a lot of steps. One thing we know is that, for the most part, whenever we have these things and people start to use them, companies will go in and they'll start to combine them. And that's what we've seen with ChatGPT. Last year at this time, ChatGPT could do text to text. Now you've got text to audio. You've got the ability to create images. You can give it an image or give it a camera feed and ask it what it's seeing. It's amazingly accurate and amazingly powerful. You could have real conversations. The recent, big, snafu with the Scarlett Johansson thing, I'm not sure if anyone saw that, but it's convincing people that there's another person on the end of that digital divide. But when we can start combining our presence and this personalization, we're going to have a spatial content world that we're going to want to continue to go back into. And then there's tools like Suno. Now, I don't think the world actually needed a hardcore rap about XR and generative AI, but this was able to create it in about 10 seconds. Audio, lyrics, the actual voice, any style you want. And I'm gifting this to you all.
Bits and bytes in a red of vibe, binary slave. X on deck, got that virtual blade. Stacking algorithms, cold like a king. Sim for reality, digital crown, everything. Deep learning hustle, no stopping this train. Neural networks.
I'm cutting it off there. If you want to hear more, come see me. I'll probably judge you, but there's an amazing amount of these tools that previously maybe you can create a generated voice. You couldn't get it to sing, but you can create a generated voice with 11 Labs. You can create lyrics with ChatGPT. You can combine that with an audio creation device. The one I used last year, I think, was called Mover, or something like that. But this one allows you to actually take it all and bring it all together in literally seconds. 3 seconds typing in a prompt, 15 seconds generation, download, and we have that masterpiece. So if we could do that now, what's preventing us from, oh, we're skipping. Okay, when we could do that now, what's preventing us from this world where we can jump into a headset and share our thoughts and dreams, be able to just speak places into existence? That is an absolute, very straightforward path from where we are today. And this thing is jumping all over the place, sorry. Maybe I'll try the remote. So this is a great example of something that's being done today. Now, this is a video from NVIDIA. They showed this at Computex last year, latter portion of the year. And this is a video from a real-time video game, interaction with a shopkeeper. Now, what's important about this is it's using generative AI and natural language processing to create a simulated conversation in real time with that specific viewer, with that specific person interacting with it. Now, traditionally, this would be done by designers, programmers, artists, voice talent, the script writers, and they'd go in and they'd have a session. They'd say, all right, what's the shopkeeper going to say? And they'd say, all right, A, B, or C, and they'd write out that script. And then they'd record that. And then they'd write out the next branching path, and the next one, and the next one. It takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of development. What can be done now is it's given a persona. You're an upset shopkeeper, worried about local gangs. Respond as a person would respond. So every person's interaction with that shopkeeper, every person's interaction with this content is wholly unique. It's very personal to them. So if you start to think about gaming, of course, in this case, but things like education and training, every bit of your weaknesses and strengths can be helped through by making the content train and work specifically for you. Every bit of content that we're going to see in the near future will be personalized. And what about our connections to people? When we can do these things and we can create these worlds as easily as speaking them into existence, we're going to want to have conversations and enjoy it with people that we care about, our friends and family. Now, this picture here is kind of a decent representation of how XR communication and collaboration works today. You know, if we're on the left there, and we obviously feel embodied in our own person, and then we're interacting with a cartoonish avatar, something that does not look like us, does not feel like us, we lose a lot of that energy for it. We're not getting body language, we're not getting emotion, we're not getting that sense of space. And this is where we're going. This is from Meta. This is what they're working on right now with what they're calling the pixel codec avatar system. And this is taken with a simple camera, and she's scanning in herself. And here's the result. You know, this is the level of avatars we can come to expect in XR in the very, very near future. If you tried out the AVP and their new avatar system, it's been updated fairly recently. It's getting pretty good too. You know, it's still a little, dead in the eyes and some things that, don't quite gel. But when we start having interactions like this, we're going to have true connections with people in XR with nuance, with emotion, with true connection. And that's where we get to where we all are here today. This whole idea about spatial computing. Personally, I have a little bit of an issue with the term spatial computing. I think that we're jumping the gun just a little bit. Now, so for me, yes, we are in that space where we're looking at spatial. But is it computing? I don't know, maybe. There's a lot of things that we can do within these devices right now, but we're not using them for general computing devices. We're not using them to fully interact with our hardware. We're not using them in that same level of utility we spoke about earlier. We're jumping in and we're jumping out. It's not how we use our other computing devices just yet. So I think we're going to get there, and there's going to be a lot of these drivers that are going to continue to push this, and one of them, I believe, is going to be that personalization aspect. Will they ever come to a point where it's a phone replacement? Maybe, when they become light enough, small enough, easy enough to use that we're wearing them all the time. I mean, it's on your face. You couldn't ask for an easier way to interact with the world without using your hands, without having to do anything special. If you could just speak it and have it happen and see it in your real space, you could visualize the world how you want it. You can create your own visual space. But to get there, we're going to have to jump through some hoops. And right now, especially in the enterprise XR space, we're still seeing these devices used as a one-to-many situation. Every enterprise customer we speak to that's dealing with collaboration or training, typically they're bringing people on, and they use the device once or twice, and that's all they ever utilize it for. But the broader section of it is even worse. Many of them will buy the devices and people will use them once when they first start, and that's the last time they'll ever put it on. So what those organizations do is they buy a fleet of devices and everybody uses them and they just share them. And quite honestly, it's not the prettiest part of it, but that's just bad for the overall business of XR. Until people have to put these devices on and we go from the shared device to the singular device where everyone needs one, we're still going to have some of those growing pains. This is a good example of where we can go. And again, this is the vision of a spatial compute space where, already built within Microsoft 365 and using a Quest device, you can jump in to an experience where you're seeing multiple monitors and then pull out 3D objects from that space. And by pulling out 3D objects from that space, you can dissect it there. You can look at it from a design-centric point of view. That's great for the designers and engineers that already get all the toys. But what about the rank and file people that are not utilizing 3D on a daily basis? That's a much broader audience. And that's the area we have to get true utility for. So you may have heard, and the reason we have some Meta videos in here, about our recent announcement with Meta. Obviously, there's a lot going on within this space. But that, to me, is one of those key areas that we as an industry have to look at. How do we coalesce around platforms so that way everyone could share and we can all experience without having to worry about which platform I'm using and do I have the right device to use it on? Microsoft Windows, obviously, is the one we're all most familiar with. If we did not have Windows and each individual computer from each computer manufacturer had their own development platform, we would have a lot more challenges within the computing space. So this, I believe, is a great sign that our industry is growing up. But with that, we have what I'm referring to as the unspoken transaction, because there's so many amazing ways that we can and will be able to personalize XR. But part of the cost factor is not just the monetary value, but what about your personal data? Now, the internet and social media have kind of created this ability for us to overlook that. We feel comfortable enough to give our information because we want to utilize the services. It's a transaction for our data for the services that are being provided by the organization. And for the most part, we may flinch at it, but we like the services we're getting more than we dislike the giving away of that personal information. And we look at XR headsets, and that makes things dramatically more difficult to protect. Now, this is our Think Reality VRX. This is our product we've had on the market for a while, and we had to make some difficult choices with this around how much data we can collect with the device to create tailored experiences. So we elected to not have eye tracking or not have face tracking because there was a lot of concern by enterprise customers around where that data was going, how it was being used. But these devices as a whole have sensors all over them. We've got screens that are rendering, you've got cameras that are capturing, sensors that are sensing. Every single bit of that information can be mined for clues. So it's very important that we know what's being tracked, how it's being tracked, and being transparent throughout all of it is absolutely key. That's one of those areas that Lenovo is actually very well known for. And we're really looking to make sure that that's part of our identity and our DNA going forward. When we talked about connection before, what about you? What about what you're comfortable with? What about when you start using that avatar? Now, I got a question for everyone here. When you create your avatar, should you be able to make it look like anyone you want or anything you want? Yeah, okay, so inherently, that's what we say, yes, of course. But what is preventing me from making my avatar look like a photorealistic version of you? The law, theoretically, right? But there's no laws around creating a digital representation of somebody and using it to jump on an online game or work in a digital space. So these are kind of offbeat areas to look at, but absolutely challenges that we're going to have to consider and look at as we grow into this new future. So thinking about our data, thinking about how we actually interact, thinking about those connections, and essentially what they do cost us. And that's where I'm going to leave you today. When we look at the future of XR. We have the personalization of devices, we have the personalization of content, we have the personalization of our connections, and we have our personal data. There's so much value of what we can get and so much that we're going to be able to build within this industry because of generative AI and because of that combination with that presence that XR gives us, that we're on the precipice of some really, really amazing times. These times and everything associated with it are going to be much more enriched, much more deeply personal, and will give us some of the most dramatically impactful experiences of our lives. Thank you all.